The fluorescent lights of the warehouse flickered one last time as Marcus Chen stood in the manager's office, his trembling hands clutching a pink slip that felt heavier than any box he had ever lifted in his 3 years at Henderson Logistics. Outside, snowflakes drifted past the grimy windows like tiny messengers of a Christmas he could no longer afford to give his daughter. It was December 24th, 6 hours before closing time, and David Henderson himself had delivered the news with all the warmth of a January wind, his eyes never quite meeting Marcus's as he cited budget cuts and restructuring, words that meant nothing to a single father whose entire world was waiting for him at home, believing in Santa Claus and the magic that her daddy had promised would come. If you believe in second chances, in the power of kindness when the world seems coldest, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means everything, and this story might just restore your faith in humanity. Marcus had never imagined his life would lead here. 2 years ago, his wife Sarah had lost her battle with cancer, leaving him alone with their daughter Emma, who was now 7 years old with her mother's bright eyes and unwavering belief that good things happen to good people. He had worked double shifts, weekends, holidays, anything to keep their small apartment warm and food on the table, to maintain the illusion that life could still be normal, still be magical. The other workers at Henderson Logistics had watched him with a mixture of pity and respect. This quiet man who never complained, who always volunteered for the worst shifts, who kept a photo of a smiling little girl taped inside his locker. But David Henderson had watched him with something else entirely. Something that Marcus had never quite understood until it manifested as contempt during their few interactions, a coldness that seemed personal in ways that professional disagreements could never explain. The animosity had started small, with Henderson criticizing Marcus's work in front of others, assigning him the most physically demanding routes, denying time-off requests that were approved for everyone else. Marcus had endured it all silently, believing that hard work and dedication would eventually speak louder than whatever prejudice or dislike Henderson harbored. He had been wrong. Now, walking through the warehouse for the last time, collecting his few belongings while coworkers averted their eyes in uncomfortable sympathy, Marcus felt the full weight of his situation crushing down on him. Rent was due in a week. Emma's Christmas presents, modest as they were, had maxed out his last credit card. The diabetes medication he depended on would run out in 10 days, and without insurance, he could never afford to refill it. The drive home through the decorated streets of Richmond felt like traveling through someone else's dream. Houses blazed with lights, inflatable Santas waved from snow-dusted lawns, and families moved behind warm windows like actors in a play Marcus could no longer attend. He practiced his smile in the rearview mirror, trying to find the expression that would convince Emma that everything was fine, that Daddy just came home early to spend more time with her on Christmas Eve. She deserved that much, deserved to have one more perfect Christmas before the reality of their situation made itself unavoidable. When he opened the apartment door, she rushed to him with the pure, uncomplicated joy that only children possess, her small arms wrapping around his waist as she chattered about the snowman they could build together, about cookies for Santa, about the bike she had asked for that Marcus had somehow, through sheer determination and sacrifice, managed to hide in their building's basement storage. That evening, after Emma had finally fallen asleep with her worn stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, Marcus sat at their small kitchen table with his laptop open, applying for jobs he knew would never respond before the new year, calculating and recalculating numbers that refused to add up no matter how he arranged them. The apartment was quiet except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Christmas carols from a neighbor's television. He allowed himself exactly 5 minutes to put his head in his hands, to feel the full terror of his situation, and then he straightened up because Emma might wake up, and she must never see him broken. The knock on his door at 9:30 that night was so unexpected that Marcus thought he had imagined it. When he opened it, David Henderson stood in the hallway, snowflakes melting on the shoulders of an expensive coat, his face unreadable. For a moment, neither man spoke, and Marcus felt a flash of anger so intense it surprised him, a desire to slam the door in the face of the man who had destroyed his Christmas, his stability, his future. But something in Henderson's expression stopped him, a vulnerability that seemed completely at odds with the cold executive who had handed him that pink slip hours earlier. Henderson's voice, when he finally spoke, was rough with an emotion Marcus couldn't identify. He explained that he had come to return something, and from his coat he pulled out the pink slip, now torn in half, along with an envelope. The words that followed came in a rush, as if Henderson had been holding them back for too long. He spoke of his own daughter, Rebecca, who had died 3 years ago at the age of 8 from the same cancer that had taken Sarah. He spoke of how seeing Marcus with Emma's photo, hearing him talk about her accomplishments, watching him be the devoted father that Henderson himself had tried to be, had filled him with a jealousy so toxic it had poisoned everything. He had hated Marcus for still having what Henderson had lost, and in his bitterness, he had done something unforgivable. The envelope contained a check for 6 months of Marcus's salary and a letter of recommendation that would open doors Henderson himself would personally guarantee. More than that, it contained Marcus's job back, effective immediately, with a raise and benefits that included full health coverage. Henderson's hands shook as he explained that his therapist had finally made him see what he was doing, how he was dishonoring his daughter's memory by punishing an innocent man for the unfairness of the universe. He had spent the evening after firing Marcus driving aimlessly through the city, seeing his daughter's face in every little girl's window, hearing her voice in every carol, until he finally understood that Rebecca would be ashamed of the man he had become. Marcus found himself unable to speak, emotions colliding in his chest with such force that he could barely breathe. Henderson continued, his voice breaking now, saying that no apology could undo the fear and pain he had caused, but that he hoped Marcus might somehow, someday, find it in his heart to forgive him. What Henderson offered was not just a job but a promise to be better, to honor both their daughters by choosing compassion over bitterness, connection over isolation. The two men stood in that hallway for a long moment, grief and understanding passing between them in the way that only those who have lost what they loved most can truly share. If this story has touched your heart in any way, if you believe in the power of redemption and the strength it takes to forgive, please hit that like button and leave a comment below telling us what this story meant to you. Your engagement helps us share more stories of hope and humanity. On Christmas morning, Emma woke to find her bike and something unexpected, a large box from Santa containing art supplies and a note saying that a little girl named Rebecca wanted to share her favorite things with another little girl who loved to create. Marcus watched, his daughter's joy with tears in his eyes, but they were different tears now, carrying not just grief but gratitude, not just fear but hope. That afternoon, David Henderson joined them for Christmas dinner, bringing stories of his daughter that he had kept locked away for too long, finding in their small apartment a warmth that his empty mansion had never provided. Before we close, please take a moment to leave a comment sharing a time when someone showed you unexpected kindness. Your stories inspire us all. The story of how Marcus, Chen, and David Henderson became not just employer and employee, but genuine friends spread through Henderson Logistics like light through darkness. Workers watched in amazement as Henderson transformed, his grief no longer a weapon but a bridge to understanding others' pain. Marcus thrived in his new position, eventually becoming a manager himself, always remembering what it felt like to stand on the edge of losing everything. And Emma grew up knowing that sometimes the people we think are our enemies are just broken souls waiting for the courage to choose love over pain, redemption over regret, and that the true magic of Christmas lives not in presents or lights, but in the extraordinary power of a human heart deciding to change.